Grade 6th, ICSE Board, English subject, Chapter Reading. Chapter reading for ICSE Board, and the textbook that we are referring to is New Mulberry, English Course Book number 6. And the chapter to be done today is Leaving the Valley. Malala Yousafzai is an activist for the education of girls and women. She began her activism in her native Swat Valley in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, northwest Pakistan, where the local Taliban at times did not allow girls to attend school. In 2009, when Malala was 12 years old, the growing violence in her region forced her family to flee. In this extract from her story, Malala describes this experience. Leaving our home felt like having my heart ripped out. I stood on our roof looking at the mountains, the snow-topped mountain elm. I looked at the trees all coming into leaf. The fruit of our apricot tree might be eaten by someone else this year. Everything was silent, pin drop silent. There was no sound from the river or the wind. Even the birds were not chirping. I wanted to cry because I felt in my heart that I might never see my home again. Everything I could not imagine happening had happened. I thought my school would not close, and it had. I thought we would never leave Swat, and we were just about to. I thought Swat would be free of the Taliban one day, and we would rejoice. But now I realized that might not happen. I started to cry. It was as if everyone had been waiting for someone else to start. My cousin's wife, Honey, started weeping. Then all of us were crying. But my mother was very composed and courageous. I put all my books and notebooks in my school bag and then packed another bag of clothes. I couldn't think straight. I took the trousers from one set and the top from another, so I had a bag of things which didn't match. I didn't take any of my school awards or photos or personal belongings, as we were travelling in someone else's car, and there was little room. My mother also said I must leave my school bag behind. We didn't own anything expensive like a laptop or jewellery. Our only valuable items had been our TV, a fridge and a washing machine. We didn't lead a life of luxury. We Pashtuns prefer to sit on floors rather than chairs. My father had resisted leaving till the end, but then some of my parents' friends had lost a relative in gunfire. Seeing their grief made my mother determined to leave. She told my father, "You don't have to come, but I'm going and I will take the children to Shangla." She knew he couldn't let her go alone. My mother had had enough of the gunfire and tension and called Dr. Afzal and begged him to persuade my father to leave. He and his family were going, so they offered us a lift. We didn't have a car. We were lucky that our neighbors, Safina and her family, were also leaving and could fit some of us in their car while the rest would go with Dr. Afzal. On 5th May 2009, we became IDPs, internally displaced persons. It sounded like a disease. My mother, father, grandmother, my cousin's wife and baby and my brothers were all squashed into the back of Dr. Afzal's van along with his wife and children. There were children in the laps of adults and smaller children in their laps. I was luckier. There were fewer people in Safina's car, but I was devastated by the loss of my school bag. Safina's father put his foot on the pedal and away we drove out of the small world of our street, home and school and into the unknown. We did not know if we would ever see our town again. The streets were jam-packed. I had never seen them so busy before. There were cars everywhere, as well as rickshaws, mule carts and trucks laden with people and their belongings. Thousands of people were leaving with just the clothes they had on their backs. It felt as if the whole valley was on the move. Few people knew where they were going. They just knew they had to leave. This was the biggest exodus in Pashtun history. The road was heaving with traffic. It was a long, slow journey, and we were all very sweaty, crammed in together. Usually, car journeys are an adventure for us children, as we rarely go anywhere. But this was different. Everyone was depressed. Finally, we got through the mountain pass and left Swat behind. It was late afternoon by the time we reached Mardan. My father kept insisting, in a few days we will return. Everything will be fine. But we knew that was not true. We were planning to make our way to Shangla, our family village. So far, we had driven in the opposite direction, but we had to take the only lift we could to get out of Swat. My father then left us to go to Peshawar and alert people to what was happening. He promised to meet us later. The next day, we met up with my cousin Khanji, who was going to Besham, from where we would go to Shangla. It was not easy to get from Besham to our village, and we had to walk 25 kilometers carrying all our things. At one point, we were stopped by the army, who told us we could go no further and must turn back. Our home is in Shangla. Where will we go? We begged. My grandmother started crying. Finally, they let us through. The army and their machine guns were everywhere. Because of the curfew and the checkpoints, there was not one other vehicle on the road that didn't belong to the military. We were afraid that the army wouldn't know who we were and would shoot us. We stayed in my mother's village, Karsham, with my uncle, Faiz Mohammed, and his family. I was happy to be with my cousin Sambal, who is a year older than me. Once we were settled, I started going to school with her. I was in year 6, but started in year 7 to be with Sambal. It took over half an hour to walk to school. My uncle gave me pocket money to buy snacks at school. They sold cucumber and watermelon, not sweets and crisps like in Mingora. One day at school, there was a Parents' Day and prize-giving ceremony. I read a poem about working hard to achieve your heart's desires. A diamond must be cut many times before it yields even a tiny jewel, I said. It was nice being with my cousins, but I missed my books. I kept thinking of my school bag at home with copies of Oliver Twist and Romeo and Juliet waiting to be read. But now we were living our own drama. We had been so happy. Then something very bad had come into our lives, and we were now waiting for a happy ending. After we had been in Shangla for about 6 weeks, my father said we could travel to Peshawar. It was very emotional to see him again. Then, a complete family once more, we travelled down to Islamabad, and then we went to Haripur, where one of my aunts lived. It was our 4th city in 2 months. I knew we were better off than those who lived in the camps, queuing for food and water for hours under the hot sun. But I missed my valley. It was there I had spent my 12th birthday. Nobody remembered. I was upset and recalled how different my 11th birthday had been. I had shared a cake with my friends. There were balloons, and I had made the same wish I was making on my 12th birthday. But this time there was no cake, and there were no candles to blow out. Once again, I wished for peace in our valley. Adapted from I Am Malala by Malala Yousafzai. Meanings from the textbook are pin drop silent, very quiet, composed, having one's feelings under control, couldn't think straight, was not able to think clearly because one was overcome with emotions. Belongings, things that belong to a person. Pashtun, a person who comes from the parts of Pakistan and Afghanistan that speak Pashto, a South Central Asian language. Shangla, a district located in the Swat district in Pakistan that is surrounded by mountains. Internally displaced persons, people who are forced to flee their home but remain within the country's borders. Laden, heavily loaded. Exodus, large number of people leaving a place together. Heaving, very crowded. Cramped, stuffed into a space. Depressed, very unhappy. Karshak, a small place in Pakistan. Mingora, a large city in the Swat region in Pakistan, where Malala was born. Thank you.